Welcome back to the studio. As you know, I record alone in the studio and my equipment almost got the best of me today. I was recording, and after I hit the record button and came on this side of the camera, unbeknownst to me, my camera said that the memory card was full. So, good thing was that I was only recording the introduction and not the fusing process, because I only have one kit per go, so I wouldn't have been able to re-record that. Anywho, last month we worked on block number 2 of Zen Garden. We've got block 1 and 2 in the can, and they're turning out really beautiful. These are laser cut and pre-fused pieces of fabric that are pre-selected, and they come in a kit that comes in a really nice clear case like this. The kit was originally a block of the month, but now it's just a kit. It's still available to both quilt shop owners and to consumers alike from the website. For quilt shop owners, you can get these wholesale and sell them at your shop. I have the color cover sheet for the kit here in my display case, and I already have out my kit for month number 3. I'm going to put aside my color cover sheet for block number 3, or 2 rather, and the block for number 2 aside when I pull the camera up closer. And I'm going to get me a clean background block for block number 3 and pull out the components. So I'm going to go ahead and do that next, and I'll explain a little bit more about the process and the techniques that we're going to be using in this month's kit. So each month we have a pre-packaged kit. In the kit we have our color cover sheet, and that's usually the first thing that I pull out. I always save these clear envelopes for something, but I never know quite what. There's always an instruction sheet with step-by-step instructions on this process. Basically, the process is peel, place, and press, and I'll illustrate that as we go forward. I have many of these instruction sheets around the studio, so I use these to collect my little paper backings, and then I can get these to the garbage. If these little paper backings fall onto the ground, sometimes they're stick to the floor and it's a little hard for me to sweep them up, so I like to get them to the garbage. I always like to keep my little color placement guide here, the color cover sheet, just in case I'm confused about the size or color of some of these similar circles or other shapes. Sometimes it's nice just to get a reference where they go. And almost every single one of these kits that I've ever opened has been packed by Vicky. She must go to sleep at night thinking about these little shapes. And once in a very blue moon, I've had 1 or 2 little pieces that were missing. I'm talking maybe once or twice in all of the kits that I've ever done, and you know how many I've done. And if you ever have an issue, you can contact them and they will make sure you get your replacement parts. So there's no issue there. So I like to separate my pieces out just to make it a little bit easier to get these together. And you have a full-size placement guide. And I always like to go over that with a dry iron just to get out any creases. I don't want any of the creases from the folding of the paper to translate into a misplaced piece of fabric on my pattern. So I just like to get the creases out. And I like to double check to make sure I have the right side up on my fabric, because it's a very faint background. So really I could start anywhere, but I like to start with these little squigglies. Now, as I said earlier, the fabric is all pre-selected for you if you buy the kit. It's also laser cut, so in the warehouse, they put the Steam 2 on huge sheets of fabric, and they iron it in place, and then they put it through the machine with a laser program, and it laser cuts all these pieces of fabric. So it's crisp, very crisp edges. And all you have to do is just slightly bend the edge of the fabric, and that paper backing just peels off. So that's the peel part of the peel, place, and press. And then you just place it over the pattern, and you can see I have my pattern over a light box. Sometimes you could tape the fabric over a window, over a glass table with a light underneath. But if your fabric's really light, you don't even need a light box. So peel, place, and press. We won't get to the pressing until the very last step. If you're not happy with the placement, all you have to do is pick the piece back up and you can reposition it. And this is what I mean by looking at the color guide. I could be moving these circles around to see which size they are, but it's easy just to look at the color guide. Looking at that color guide, it makes it super easy. This is something that you could have fun with the whole family. Just about any age group could participate at some level with this project. If they're not old enough to peel the paper off, they could at least help you put the pieces on the right place, like a puzzle. And then later you could go back and peel the pieces off. If they're old enough to peel the paper off and place them, even better. I think it's something that it would be fun with a multi-generational project. Have the grandparents, the kids, grandkids, aunts and uncles. You could do it when family is visiting, and then when it's gifted to somebody, they have that memory of all the family working on it. So it's not just a quilt, but it is... You can see here that I've made the mistake of the wrong size. So I can simply reposition those. It's not just a quilt, but it's a memory of all that laughs and times together. And that's what I think is so great. The other thing that is so amazing about projects like this, we often have things that we want to gift to people. I know that I hear this often at the guild meetings, that people want to give a gift to each of their grandkids, for instance. But we can't make applique quilts for 12 or 16 grandkids. But when you have a project that goes together this quickly, then making projects for that many grandkids suddenly seems possible. Also, you have kids or young adults who want to get into crafting with members of the family who have been crafting for a lot longer, and they don't have the skill level yet. And because this is so easy to do, this gives them a sense of accomplishment while building skills, and makes them feel like they too can participate in the hobby with their other family members who've been doing it for a longer period of time. Something that both boys and girls could do. We have all different kinds of patterns. Monsters and trucks. And you can see in real time just how quickly this goes. Now you can see I haven't had any problem in peeling these paper backings off. I think it has to do with the climate I'm in, but if you do have a problem with a piece that's really stuck, all you have to do is score the back of that paper with a sharp object. I just used a hat pin, and that gives you a place to peel, and it just basically gives you a handle to peel that off with. I just bumped my pattern, so those look a little off now, but I assure you they're pretty good. So that's pretty much all there is to this. It goes very quickly. Now we're on to the very last section of this process, which is the fusing. So you could go ahead and eye this over and make sure everything is as you wanted it to be, making sure that you have the color placement correct and everything is nice. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my light box off and remove my paper pattern and get the light box out of the way, and I can transition into the fusing section of this block, Zen Garden block number 3. I've given the block a good look over. As you can see, the whole process is very quick. It's just peeling the paper backing off, placing it, and pressing. So peel, place, and press. All of the pieces already had the fusible web on the back, and you had the paper placement guide. Now that placement guide you can keep a hold of, and you could reproduce that pattern again if you want to, using your own fusible web and your own scissors, your own needle turn technique if you wanted to do that later. So that's a great thing that you could hold on to. All I have left at this point is to go ahead and fuse, and just as the name indicates, Steam Seam 2 does require some form of steam component in this fusing process. I don't like to use water in my iron, regardless of what brand I use or how much I've paid for my iron. I never put water in them because eventually I trip over the cord, the iron hits the ground, I break a seal, and the iron leaks or it sputters. It goes through a cleaning cycle, and I ruin my background or something else happens. So I never put water in there. Instead, I just use a cute spray bottle. This one has cute dots on it. So I'm just going to go ahead and spray a light mist coating on the top of the block, and then when I hit this with the iron, that's going to create the steam. You also notice I've got a Teflon pressing sheet underneath, and I'm going to sandwich this block in between, and I'll explain why I do that. The sandwich is going to really encapsulate that steam in there. And I'll also tell you, originally when I first started doing these, I messed up a few of my blocks. I hate to say it, but I tend to be lazy at some things. I've tried to get better, but I would push the iron sideways without lifting it up, and the edge of the sole plate would catch the very edge of the applique shapes. And rather than holding it down, it would scrunch it up, but then it would be underneath the sole plate of the iron, and I would be fusing the applique shape in a scrunched up shape and ruining the applique. So the Teflon pressing sheet really prevents this from happening. It keeps the applique shapes held down in place while I fuse. It also keeps the fabric perfectly clean in case there's anything on the sole plate of the iron. Conversely, it also keeps the sole plate of the iron clean in case there's any fusible web that might seep out around the edges of the applique. Remember, we are using a fusible web in between each of these layers of fabric. We do need to give the iron time for the heat to translate through the Teflon pressing sheet and through each layer of fabric, fusible web, fabric, fusible web, fabric, fusible web, and background. So when I hold this in place, I can't give you a specific time or heat setting because each of our irons are different, ambient temperature, quality of the iron, and so forth. So you're just going to have to test. But I will tell you that usually people underfuse rather than overfuse. You're not going to evaporate the fusible web. It's not going to be possible. If you get gumming on a needle when you're quilting or doing top stitching, that's an indication that you did not fuse properly. Because if you did, there'd be no loose. Right while I was in between sentences, my memory card got full and so the camera cut off. But I believe I was saying that if you fuse properly, there is no adhesive left in the fusible web to get caught on the needle. So if you're getting gumming on the needle, then that's an indication that you haven't fused long enough. But this is block number 3 for the Zen Garden, and that will complete pretty much this video. Remember that we do have these complete kits available. These are available both wholesale to the quilt shop, and they're available to the consumer directly from our website. We do have sales twice a year, so if you want, you could always go onto the website and put these items on your wish list, and then when the sale comes around, you don't have to go looking for those things that you wanted. You could go ahead and purchase them at that time when they're on sale. So that's a great tip. I'm looking forward to getting to the point where I'm putting my blocks together. Maybe some of you that are keeping track as we're going through the blocks could let me know if I should put sashing or not. The original quilt that you'll see on the website didn't have sashing, but I haven't decided if I would do sashing or not. I think if I were to use sashing, it would probably be something in this purple fuchsia range or this teal range, because we already have the orange and green represented in the inner and outer border. Now I could use a two-tone, kind of like a window pane that they do a lot of times in quilting. But thanks for stopping by today. I always appreciate it. It's great to have somebody here with me in the studio. As you know, I film alone, so it's great to have company, and I really appreciate that. So until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other, and we'll see you back in the studio for block number 4.